as you think about how you can create a place to call home and really put people and place first as you think about rural economic development. So with that, I will let you all get started with today's incredible conference. Thank you so much for joining. Appreciate your time, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, Deputy Under Secretary. Appreciate you taking the time to be here with us today. We know how busy you are. Okay, so before we begin the Rural Development Panel, I'd like to thank everyone out there for deciding to join us. We are excited to discuss the work we're doing in support of socially vulnerable and distressed communities through placemaking. During today's panel, you'll hear from Dr. Basil Gooden, the Director of our State Office of Operations for Rural Development, Lee Jones, Executive Director of the Rural Partners Network, and Jon Wolseth, Community Development Specialist for the Housing Assistance Council, or HAC. RD has done and continues to do a lot to support socially vulnerable and distressed communities through placemaking. For example, through 3 rounds of Rural Placemaking Innovation Challenge Awards, RPIC, we awarded $8 million in grant funds to 35 organizations across the country. You'll see in the chat, there'll be a link to those awards. In 2022, we collaborated with the University of Kentucky for the first annual Placemaking in Small and Rural Communities Conference, attended by over 800, I believe, attendees and registered and network larger than 1,000 participants. As part of the collaboration with the University of Kentucky, the Rural American Placemaking Toolkit was developed and is available today for free online to any rural community who would like to take advantage of it. We continue to partner with funding and technical assistance providers to bring much needed resources to the most rural places, including tribal communities, the Mississippi Delta, the Southern Black Belt, Central Appalachia, and the Colonias. Our first speaker, Dr. Gooden, recently served as a visiting scholar in the Sustainable Food Access Core of the Institute for Inclusion, Inquiry, excuse me, and Innovation, I-Cubed, at Virginia Commonwealth University. And from 2016 to 2018, he served as the 3rd Secretary of Agriculture and Forestry for the Commonwealth of Virginia. He is also back, and we're happy to have him back. He was a former Rural Development State Director under the Obama administration. He is now in our Undersecretary's office in this new and exciting role. And so Basil, I'd like to start with you and just ask you to tell us about the Rural Development State Offices and that network of state offices and how they've recently been implementing RD's effort to engage and support more vulnerable, distressed, and underserved rural areas.
Well, good morning, and thank you so much, Jackie, for the question. A little bit about rural development state offices. As far as indicated, we have about 400. We have more than 450 offices across the country and territories here in the United States. Those offices are led by 47 tremendous state directors in rural development. And I get the opportunity to work directly with the state directors through my office, which is the Office of State Operations here. So essentially, what I wanted to talk a little bit about was actually the Equity Project. That is a project that's instituted throughout rural development, and it is really focused on serving underserved and unmet needs in populations across the country. So essentially, we have some slides here and just really talk a little bit about what we attempt to do with the Equity Project. We really target underserved populations, populations that have not received funding from rural development in the past 5 years, and really trying to make connections and make these meaningful engagements in these communities to actually help increase the capacity in these communities, but really try to avail them to resources, whether it's through rural development or some other parts of the federal government or the state government or even local governments. So essentially, each state, each area through the Equity Project actually targeted about 10 communities last year to engage in, to really try to develop a connection, a meaningful connection with these areas to actually help them build the capacity to address the needs as they see them in these communities. So essentially, the overall goal of the equity project through USDA was to engage in these communities, to assist them, to look at what the barriers are, look at the needs, but also look at what type of assistance we could really deliver to these communities. And again, not only through rural development, through other resources as well. And then as we go to the next slide, really the equity project was really driven by data, really looking at really three types of data initially, certainly using the social vulnerability index, then also the Distress Community Index, but also the data that we have here through the data analytics team here in the Innovation Center, really looking at what we have done through rural development in the past years. So again, really focusing on areas that have not been served for whatever reason prior in USDA, in rural development in the prior 5 years. So essentially looking at these areas that really could use resources and could use assistance. And these are the communities where we really targeted our efforts. And if we go to the final slide, really just very quickly, some of the results of the equity project. Really, we have projects in all 50 states across the country. We engaged in more than actually 485 communities to really look at addressing these needs. And when we say there were more than 1,400 unique contacts, those are the individuals that actually were contacted to either we met with, to really get advice from, to hear from. So really, these were meaningful, and I keep using the word meaningful. These were meaningful contacts to really help address these the needs in the communities, again, as they saw them. And essentially more than about $250 million that we invested, that's been invested in these areas. And so again, the money is not the actually objective of this the equity project. It really is to work with these communities to help address these needs. So that's just a snapshot of the equity project, Jackie, and so just really wanted to provide that overview. Didn't know if you anything else.
Thank you, Dr. Gooden. We're going to dive more into that as we get into our Q&A portion of the panel. But for now, I'm going to turn to Lee Jones, the director of the Rural Partners Network. Good morning, Lee.
Good morning, Jackie. How are you doing? I hope all is well.
It is. Thank you.
Good.
And welcome to the panel. So I wanted to give you an opportunity to share with us a little bit about RPN. We may have some, although we have some RPN networks in the audience today, and we welcome them, there may be others who are wondering, what is RPN and how can I become part of it? In a nutshell, could you describe RPN?
Absolutely, absolutely. And thank you again. Good morning, everyone. I'm bringing greetings from sunny West Virginia. I have the privilege of being here with two wonderful networks here in West Virginia, putting on a Rural Partners Network Federal Forum, by which we like to bring our federal partners together, and it presents opportunities for local community members to really engage these federal partners and find solutions to the issues that they face on a daily basis. So I just want to tell a little bit about Rural Partners Network. It was launched in April 22 with USDA playing a key role in launching Rural Partners Network. But as we've mentioned, Rural Partners Network is an all-of-government effort. So we do this in collaboration with our partners at the White House Domestic Policy Council, along with, and I'll get into this in just a moment, along with a host of federal agencies that are also impactful and offer programs and opportunities that can impact rural communities. So as we know, our RPN, as we'll call it for short, is an all-of-government program and that partners with rural people. And we do that to access resources and funding that creates jobs, it builds infrastructure, supports long-term economic stability, and it does it on their own terms. And what we mean by that is We know that the federal government has a host of wonderful programs and opportunities that exist. We also know that we're in historic times through the passing of legislation such as CHIPS, IRA, the bipartisan infrastructure law, so on and so forth. We're seeing historic amounts of funding available, levels of funding that have not been available in any of our lifetimes, at least through the federal government. And we just want to make sure that rural communities that we serve are able to take advantage of that. We know there's often a challenge in rural communities being able to access these programs because, they often know what they need, but often also lack or not know how to take the first step in order to make it happen. So that's where we want to come in and be more impactful. We also recognize that, if you've been to one rural community, you've been to exactly one rural community. So while we create programs and opportunities that can be impactful for any rural community, it's also important that we take the time to engage and provide that level of assistance and capacity building that will allow a rural community to be more competitive in a hyper-competitive space. So how do we do that? We have community networks that receive on-the-ground support, and we're currently supporting 36 community networks in 10 states plus Puerto Rico. Those community networks comprise of a host of counties, like in the regional footprints. It could be a singular county. It could be a multi-county footprint. Here in West Virginia, there's actually two of the larger county footprints. One is 12 and the other is 9 counties. So we don't necessarily put parameters on that because we believe it should be the vision of the community that determines what that network looks like. So we also have tribal communities that we engage. In Arizona, we have 3 tribal governments that we engage in Rural Partners Network. And in Wisconsin, of the 5 community networks we have there, 1 is tribally led as well. So we try to make sure that we're providing support to all types of communities, be it in the Deep South, be it in Appalachia, where I am now, tribal communities, colonias, so on and so forth. And we pursue this by administering a broader strategy by which we want to create tools and resources that can be impactful for any rural community, but most importantly, a more focused, localized strategy that does provide for like that in-depth place-based community economic development support. And where that support comes in, Rural Partners Network stands on the shoulders of giants. And what I mean by that is previous efforts such as the Strike Force, strong cities, strong communities, stronger economies together. I think you can take from what I'm saying here that the federal government is certainly no stranger to place-based initiatives. But where this differs is that often, especially the ones that I've been able to be involved with, have often been collateral duties. We have the opportunity, or have had the opportunity, to place staff on the ground in support of these communities. And listening to a panel here in West Virginia this morning, one thing that stuck out, we're still very early stage. So, those of you that operate in that community development space know that it often takes time to realize real solutions to the problems that you face. But one thing that stuck out to me, a comment that a community network member made during the panel, was that unlike previous efforts, it just feels different. There's staff on the ground, and it's not staff that's got to leave me and go process alone. This is staff that is completely 100% dedicated to the needs of my community. So that really resonated, and I thought that was a testament to the work that we are seeking to do here. So as I mentioned, rural towns know what they need, but they often, don't know the first step to take. We all know, rural towns that have part-time mayors or leaders that are wearing multiple hats. I'm thankful to the University of Kentucky and their participation today, but it makes me think about like Fulton, Kentucky, that is also a community network located there on the western side of the state. And they had a wonderful convening a few weeks ago. I wasn't able to be there, but one of our team members was there along with the state team here in Kentucky, and put on a wonderful event where I give this kind of anecdotally, but they serve prime rib. But how does that happen in a community such as Fulton? It happens because, well, the local cattlemen, donated and smoked the prime rib. It happened because county commissioners and mayors and whatnot were involved in the planning process and to the level of ironing table linens. So it lets you know that, in order to put on these successful events, it takes on a lot, it takes a lot of effort on the behalf of those communities to make that happen. And it's the same for pursuing federal opportunities. So when we talk about the impact that the federal government can have on rural communities, we know that it's meant to be transformative. This is different from how the federal government has traditionally operated with rural communities. We create programs, we invite them to apply, and we invite them into this competition. But here, we want to take the steps necessary to make sure that they are able to be, be more competitive and have long-term sustainability for the projects that they seek to pursue. And I'll close with how RPN supports placemaking. So if you think of placemaking in just the simplest of terms, literally the making of a place, we could point to making a place safer through identifying solutions that make communities safer for bikers and pedestrians, or making a place more livable through creative housing solutions, making a place more sustainable through economic development strategies that drive job creation, prosperity, so on and so forth. And we could certainly point to making a place more equitable through ensuring that communities consider all the needs of all facets of the community, from the local elected officials to private industry to healthcare, education, low-income communities, communities of color. That's a role that we really strive to pursue, is to help ensure communities develop strategies that improve conditions for the many rather than the few. So that's why we offer these opportunities, and it's a big part of being a part of a partnership. So agencies, we're very thankful to agencies such as transportation, commerce, EPA, energy, so on and so forth, that have taken the time to identify a rural desk officer for their agency, that's a team or an individual that serves as like the front door to that federal agency. So with this, connective power, our animating theme is that there really is no wrong door for accessing the federal government as a whole. We want to take advantage of those opportunities that are out there, and we're already starting to see some success as far as like that relationship building that goes into creating wonderful programs and opportunities for rural communities through the signature project process. So when we get the question of how other people could potentially be a part of this effort, we know that we're not in a place yet to expand to other states. However, keep in mind that broader support strategy that I just mentioned, and that we want to make sure that we're creating solutions that any rural community can access. And I will close with saying that for me personally, like how I think we're being successful has less to do with application support, has less to do with obligations, and more to do with if a community in another state or another portion of the state that's currently with us looks at this and says, I want to be a part of that. That to me is a testament to the fact that we're doing the right, we are doing the right thing as the federal government, and that we should be supporting rural America in a very different way than we have heretofore. So I will stop there and happy to take questions at the appropriate time. Thank you, Jackie, for the opportunity to present today. And thank you to our colleagues at the University of Kentucky as well. You're on mute, ma'am. You're on mute, Jackie.
Muting myself. Thank you. Sorry. I thought I was unmuted, but I'm not. Thank you, Lee, for being here today. We will get to your questions as we get to the Q&A portion of the panel. I agree with you. There have been lots of efforts. Rural development has been so dedicated to exclusively serving rural areas. It's our mission. It's what we do every day, all day. And the combination of the work that's being done with RPN and kind of a special dedication of resources, but also paired with the work that's being done that Dr. Gooden and the state offices are doing on a day-to-day basis, it's really kind of a winning combination at this point. I think it's the best we've seen so far. So we're going to turn now to our third speaker, Jon Wolseth, from the Housing Assistance Council. And Jon, it sounds like you've had an opportunity to work with our great rural development state directors network to help identify some communities for your new Community Facilities Technical Assistance Initiative. And how did that go? Can you share that and anything else you'd like to share in your opening statement?
Great.
Jon?
Thank you, Jack. Thank you very much, Jackie. It's a pleasure to be here today. As Jackie mentioned, I work for the Housing Assistance Council, and don't let the name fool you. We also do other things besides housing in rural areas. I work on the community facilities and placemaking lines of business, along with some other colleagues here at the Housing Assistance Council. And we were a recipient of the Community Facilities Technical Assistance Grant from USDA, which allows us to be able to provide technical assistance on community facility projects in rural communities. And when I was hired, we were starting to look for some partnering communities to work with, and State Director Spate in North Carolina connected me to the town of Garysburg in Northampton County, which happens to be an RPN county. And today I'm going to talk a little bit about how a potential CF or community facilities project can be a part of a larger or broader placemaking effort in a community. Garysburg is a community of around 1,000 people, again, sort of towards the Virginia border. They are dealing with a school that had been abandoned or been closed by the school district. And after sort of many years of prolonged negotiation, the town was able to purchase the abandoned school. That's the picture that you see in front of you. And the community really has this vision for being able to utilize this space instead of tearing it down, what was once the heart of Garysburg, to continue to allow it to be the heart of Garysburg through rehabbing and retrofitting this building into a multi-purpose community and event center that includes areas of commercial space, as well as a volunteer library, and a commercial kitchen, and a ballroom space or multi-purpose space. It has a very large footprint, and it would have been a shame to see this building, this part of history, for the community to be demolished. It was even more important for the community to see if they can't redevelop this site through using the same building, because Garysburg was a town that never had a commercial district of its own. And so the vision behind utilizing the school was, or is, to have that be both the commercial center, the downtown center, and again, sort of that heart of the community. It's a large project. It's a very large project for a community of this size to undertake. I'm happy to be able to partner with them to help them sort of shepherd this project through its various phases, along with additional partners. We're able to work with another community development firm to help go through this process. And we're even being able to partner with some of the institutes of higher education here in North Carolina. I was able to bring in the NC Growth, which is part of the Keenan Flagler School of Business at UNC Chapel Hill. They're going to be working on helping create an operations plan so that once the rehab happens, we're able to see that this project will be self-sustaining in the long term. If you could flip to the next slide, that would be fantastic. This is, again, sort of Garysburg is rich in history, and really wants to value this community space and center it. I think it's really telling that the first part of this project that is operational is the volunteer library. That once the high school itself had closed down, they really wanted to keep the library portion open, and it's served by a number of dedicated volunteers in the one part of the building that was originally usable. I think there's one more slide. You can sort of see that the footprint is quite large. The area in orange is the multi-use rooms, and that's really where I will be helping focus the attention on community facilities. For those of you who don't know, the Community Facilities Grant and Loan is available through the USDA, and it's money that is typically one of the best loan agreements that a community is able to find, and it's able to be used for a variety of community facilities kinds of projects. This one works really well because it's going to be a commercial kitchen that can also be used as a congregate meal site, as well as that sort of multi-use room that they'll be able to rent out as an event space for the community and the surrounding county. It used to be the basketball courts. It still can double or triple as a basketball court if need be. And then the cafeteria section of the school. The areas in yellow are some nonprofit office spaces, and then some of those commercial real estate or retail spaces, retail spaces. To the left of the yellow is their health and wellness center, which is being outfitted in former classrooms that include some gym equipment, and then the dotted line you see go around the school. That is a walking track that the community has put in so that folks in a town that doesn't have sidewalks, it's a safe place for the community to come and walk and exercise. Again, the idea behind this is that community facilities as the grant and loan is a really great option to be able to focus on, I would call them high profile or high stakes buildings in projects in a community where there might need to be a variety of different funding sources to stack together to make this project work. Obviously, no community wants to take 100% out in loans in order to make a project work. And the Community Facilities Loan Program is designed to be a supplement to other funding sources. It's not designed to be 100% funding for a project. That allows for the final completion, if you will, of a particular project. Garysburg is moving forward very quickly on this project. They have put a lot of effort into reaching out to the state and local governments for additional funding. They received a North Carolina transformation grant, rural transformation grant, that allowed for some site work to be done. There were even thinking about ways of utilizing other USDA funding, like the Rural Business Development Grant, to create a master plan for this particular site. I'll be happy to answer questions at the appropriate time. It's been a pleasure to be able to speak with all of you.
Thank you so much, John. Stay right there on the screen. If the other panelists will come up on screen as well, that would be great. John, since you just finished, I want to start with you and get a sense of why this facility transformation really is seen as a placemaking activity. How does it lean into that sense of place for this community?
Yeah, I think it goes back to the idea that because they had no downtown, because there was no commercial center for the town, the school was the central identity for Garysburg. And when it closed, it's a blow. It's a blow to any rural community when a major facility like a school or a hospital closes down. It's part of who they are and their identity. And so this process started for them in 2011. It took them 5 years in order to be able to purchase the school from the district. And they've been able to devote a lot of energy and attention into reclaiming the site as a part of who they are as a community.
That's really awesome. And so this is you had a sense of place, something shifted, and you went through the placemaking exercise to help them re-envision what their new central core would be. Is that right?
Yes, they're leveraging as with any great placemaking, you leverage your identity, you leverage what you have in order to work on that and transform that into something that highlights that asset that you have in your community.
Okay, terrific. Dr. Gooden, I want to turn to you and ask you, in the distressed or vulnerable communities where you and the state offices are placing some emphasis right now, and where there are so many pressing concerns taking precedence, what's some advice you might offer, because you have this kind of broad level of experience, both in the state, at the national as a policy leader. How would you, if you were working with one of these communities, or one of our state directors is working with one of these communities, prioritize placemaking, start that placemaking process?
Thanks, Jackie. we always start with the assets, always starting with the people first, really lead in with understanding the cultural, the social issues, but really looking at the positive and just looking at the assets that can be actually built upon in these communities. And every community has assets that can to be developed and really highlighted. So really, I think first and foremost, what we do is really connect with the folks there in these communities and really try to develop, again, that we're here to listen. Not to tell them what to do. Actually, we're here to support what they feel is important, and really try to provide some type of technical assistance to help avail them to resources that may help them get to where they want to go as a community. So it's being a partner and to the good folks in the communities. And so again, looking at the assets and being a good partner. That's how we do business in the Equity Project.
That's great. Thank you so much. And we've seen, right, rural communities have a very strong sense of who they are and that they want that autonomy, right? So being a partner is a role that we enjoy and respectfully do. So I'm going to turn to Lee because there were a bunch of questions in the chat. I want to make sure that we clarify that RPN itself is not a grant program. RPN is a process, right, through which we are providing technical assistance through dedicated resources at rural development and through connection across the government, right?
That is correct. That is correct. We are not a grant program in and of itself. Now, I'd be remiss if I didn't say that we may, from a visionary perspective, want to see ourselves grow to that place one day. But as it stands, Jackie, you're absolutely right in that we're more capacity. We're technical assistance. That's the arena that we play. In which we play. But I also have to mention when you think about all the different opportunities that are out there through the federal government. I point specifically to Rural Development's most recent announcements in PACE and New Era, the energy programs, along with the Department of Energy's Clean Energy Demonstration Program for rural communities. Both of those, all of those programs and many more have specifically identified RPN as a focus and a target area. So what that does is, it encourages participation from the communities themselves, but it also encourages participation from organizations like a HAC, for instance. I had a wonderful conversation with Jon just the other day, but it encourages, participation from organizations like HAC, like NATO and others to pursue these opportunities on behalf of RPN. So while we may not be in position to make the grant, so to speak, we are in position to influence policy. We are in position to ensure that the voice of the rural people is heard in Washington.
And there was a question about whether or not if I'm a network participating in RPN, what do I have to, is there a matching requirement for me to bring any money to the table? Or is this all just, and how do people get selected?
That's a great question. Of course, it starts with data. There is no particular match or financial requirement. We do what we can through the appropriation that we receive to provide levels of financial support that fit within what we are allowed to do as a federal agency, of course. But from a selection perspective, it was important to us to offer that opportunity and make sure that we were engaging communities that while they represent underserved and distressed communities, they also have some level of capacity and desire to see some advancement in their community. So that's how we kind of gauged our selection. We did it through an intense community engagement process. We did it through engagement with the Innovation Center, of course, as one of the key contributors of the information that we used to make the decisions that we did. And then finally, it's through those state directors. Definitely thankful to Basil and his leadership and the leadership of the state directors in helping to identify the locations that make the most sense within those given states as well.
That's great. Jon, I think I have one that might be for you, maybe not. It might be for Lee or even for Dr. Gooden, but we did have a question. We have someone in the audience who is a nonprofit loan packager for USDA loans. I don't know if it's a housing loan or if it's more CF type packaging, but there was a question on whether or not there was technical assistance dollars, whether there were dollars available for them to provide technical assistance or promote the work that's being done through RPN or through HAC or through RD in general. So I didn't know, John, I know HAC had the community facilities placemaking grants. Are there other TA grants available through HAC for packagers?
Not that I am aware of. We do work with nonprofit housing developers and communities through our CDI program, which is technical assistance on a cohort basis. That groups have to be. We go through a selection process for groups to be a part of that cohort early on, and then they're with us for about 3 years.
Okay. Lee or Dr. Gooden, are you aware? I am not off the top of my head aware of any of our programs that provide TA dollars to packagers, but I thought I'd ask to see if there was something maybe in another agency that you're seeing through the network, Lee.
Right. And I'm right there with you. I'm not aware, but I think that's something, again, we could add to the list of things to sort of look at as we go forward. But at this moment, I'm not aware of anything right now. So, but thanks for the question. Yeah.
Terrific.
Yeah, and similar, I'm not directly aware for like specifically for packagers. I will mention that, we do use, in an ideal budget scenario, we do use some of that authority to do like creative cooperative agreements that offer so levels of assistance. We would stop short of necessarily saying packaging, just in case there, because we don't want to be duplicative as well. Like we wouldn't necessarily do a cooperative agreement for CF when there is a CF technical assistance program out there. So that's just an example, but we do have a few cooperative agreements by which we're doing technical assistance around particular themes, such as maternal health and things like that.
Great. And I have one final question, because I think we're at the end of our time. I want to do a time check really quickly for my team in the background. Are we okay on time? I think we are. One question. Okay. I thought I might be done with my last question. Okay. So this one's about our community facilities program and recreation, but it is for any or all of the panelists. And John, the end of it does speak directly to you. So this person is asking, USDA Rural Development, their contact at USDA Rural Development is telling them that county parks are not considered eligible for the CF program, that it's not an eligible use. And while they disagree, because the past couple of years have proven that parks are very much a needed community facility, particularly with the turn to focus on outdoor and recreation during the COVID pandemic, and a need to develop recreational economies. Question was to John and whether or not your program might consider a park as part of its placemaking initiative.
Not so, because our funding is coming from the USDA specifically on the community facility side. For me, probably not, but we do. I'm actually here in New Bern, Alabama at the Rural Studio right now. That's where I'm coming from. We're having our own RPIC summits with our RPIC communities here. That could definitely be a focus for an RPIC or a CERD, a Citizens Institute on Rural Design, which is also another program that we provide through HAC. If you're interested in those, and especially in CERD, you can go to rural-design.org. And I think we have a upcoming round of applications for cohort members for that. So please take a look at that. You can always email me as well at jon@ruralhome.org.
That's great. And I did want to, we're live and we're active right now. We reached out to our community facilities leadership when this question came in. It is not an eligible purpose under our CF program, but USDA has recognized that recreational economy has been critical, especially during this recovery from the COVID pandemic, that we are looking into a potential change in the future. And so stay tuned. I want to thank all our panelists today for your time, for your engagement. I want to thank this audience for asking lots of questions. There were others we probably could talk for another hour, but we did want to share with you some of the work that's being done, some of the opportunities that are here. For those of you who are in the audience, just know that the Placemaking Toolkit is a free and good place to start your placemaking conversation. And then there are entities like HAC, like Rural Development's state offices and our traditional programs, and then RPN, our newest and broadest government-wide kind of connecting TA type program available to you. And over time, RPN will grow, and hopefully we'll have the ability to have dedicated, more and more dedicated staff in the field to do this work. And through our state offices, we'll continue to serve you. We're here for you in your placemaking journey. We do want you to take advantage of the tools that USDA and University of Kentucky have built for you. We hope that you enjoy the rest of the conference and that you dig in, and we look forward to riding along with you on your journey. So thank you to our panelists, and have a great day.
Thank you. Thank you.